Okay, so welcome to WeREndurance webinar series. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Dave Williams of Velosurance, which is actually my bike insurance company. And I've been incredibly satisfied with them and have been using them for a couple of years now. So Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about Velosurance, what you do there, and how you got involved? I know you're an avid cyclist, so maybe you could talk a little bit about that too.
Everyone who works here is a cyclist. So when you call, no matter who you talk to, you're going to be talking to someone else who knows what you're talking about, and there is no mystery in bicycle insurance. And if you have a question, we have the answer. The policy covers the bike for all types of accidental damage, including theft at home and away from home, including loss while the bike is in transit. We have a couple of recommendations for clients who transit their bikes through the airlines. Number one is to go to Amazon and purchase a roll of stickers that say "Do not double stack." This is a precaution against somebody throwing something heavy on top of your frame that's inside the bag. It's worked well for us. The other caution is the airlines give you 4-hour window to report any damage to the bikes during transit. We always recommend that you open the bag in the airport, take a quick look at it, see if there's anything obvious, and then within the 4 hours, try and get the bike built up to see if there's anything that was hidden. Once you go back to the airline in 4.5 hours, we've heard accusations that the airline says, how do we know that you didn't ride the bike and damage it? And so we're going to pay the claim anyway, because the airline is going to kick and scream. Just report it to them, give us a report, we pay the claim, and then if it's worth our while, we can subrogate against the airline.
So that's an interesting thing that you're talking about. A lot of people do travel with their bikes. And so let's talk about the car, for example, because I know for me, I throw the bike in the car and I put it on a rack and I go to the park and I ride. What happens if the bike falls off the car, which has happened not to me, but to other people I know, that the bike's fallen off the car and it's gone tumbled and broke up, whatever, or that's one. And second, what happens if I'm in a car accident with the bike in the car and the bike gets damaged? What gets covered?
Covered. You don't have to be riding.
Well, is it covered by you or is it covered by Allstate, my insurance company?
Well, we're the primary insurer. So if you put a claim in with Allstate, one of the questions they would ask, is there any other insurance covering this bike? And as soon as you say yes, they pass the buck to us. So you might as well just start it out with us, and we'll pay the claim, and then we'll go after the offending motorist.
But what happens if say we don't hire you guys to do insurance? I mean, is Allstate going to cover the cost of the bike?
You'd have to ask Allstate. If it's in the past, we know that if it's on the outside of the car, Allstate won't cover it. If it's inside the car, I have no idea. 20 years ago, they would have covered it, but all insurance companies have been slicing away pieces of coverage year after year. And it used to be that your homeowner's insurance covered your personal property anywhere in the world. Well, guess what? Now it covers your personal property at home. If you take it out into the street, it's not covered.
So talk to us now about a race, right? So a lot of our members have done, 70.3s and Ironman events, even, Olympics and sprints. What happens if you get into a bike accident at a race? Is that covered by Velosurance if
Yes,
you are our carrier?
yes. And if you've paid to enter an event, I mean, we know what Ironman costs to enter. If you've paid to enter an event and something happens to the bike pre-event, that means that you can no longer compete. Step one, ask for your money back from Ironman. If they don't give it back, no, I know, but you have to ask, because we need a declination letter from them saying, sorry, we're not refunding your money. And send that declination letter to us, and we will refund $500.
Interesting. There was a situation, I was supposed to be racing in Ironman North Carolina 7.3 this past weekend, but I tore my meniscus, so I'm out. But I was reading some of the comments on Facebook, and one of the guys who was supposed to compete, he traveled to Wilmington with his bike on the airplane. When he took it out of the case, when he got to the hotel, the whole frame was damaged. Now he can't compete. So what you're saying is, if he had Velo insurance, you would have been able to cover his entry plus the bike. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep,
Wow.
he'd get $500 refund for his for what he's paid for the event. And this, once again, this comes back to the spend $15 for a year's supply of double stack stickers. Do not double stack. That's what it comes back to. His bike bag ended up on the bottom of a pile of luggage. And, a 14-pound carbon frame doesn't react well to having 300 or 400 pounds thrown on top of it.
Crazy, right? That there's so many.
And the airline just blames it on, the airline will blame it on you. And if they pay anything, I think now when you ship a bike with some airlines, you sign a release and waiver limiting their liability to $500. And that's the cost of your handlebar.
So talk to us about what types of bikes would be insured. I mean, would you insure your road bike? Maybe you pay, $1,500 for it, or is that like too little? I mean, what's the sweet spot really to insure your bike?
Okay, so the minimum premium, there is not a premium lower than $100 a year. And depending on where you live, if you live in San Diego, that covers a bike of about $800 or $900. If you live in Minnesota, you can probably buy a policy for $100 and cover a $1,500 bike. Our rates are based on your riding season. Although the policy is a 12-month policy, we know that in Minnesota, there's 6 months of riding and 6 months of ice fishing. So we know that that bike's not coming off the trainer for 4 to 6 months. The rates in Minnesota are about 40% less than rates if you lived in San Diego.
So it actually goes state by state, is what you're saying, depending on where
we split the country into 3 regions. North, where there is where there is definitely a limited riding season. Central, where there may be a limited riding season. Certainly some days you don't want to step out the front door. And south, where you can ride 12 months of the year. So the bike is in Minnesota, the bike is at risk of being damaged for 6 or 7 months out of the year. Central, 8 or 9 months out of the year. South, 12 months of the year.
Interesting. You started this conversation before we started recording. You started discussing some of the some cases that have happened. Do you want to share those with us? some case studies?
Bikes get stolen, and when your bike is away from home, it should be locked to an immovable object unless it's in a transition area. If it's in the transition area, it's covered for up to 24 hours. You don't have to lock it. And unless you're a really slow swimmer, 24 hours should be enough. Maybe at that point it's called search and rescue. But when the bike is at home, it should be locked behind. It should be behind a locked door. I keep all my bikes in the garage, but I lock them to a utility shelf in the garage because garage doors are so easy to get open from the outside that I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Garage doors are so easy to open from the outside that, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't hear that. You could start a lawnmower in my living room and I'd sleep through it. So there has to be evidence of forcible entry. And if someone just pops the garage door open without damaging it, there is no evidence left behind. So a cut lock, we despise cable locks because they're so easy to cut, but a cut cable lock is evidence of that forcible entry.
Gotcha.
So it's accidents happen. Bikes don't react well to sliding across the blacktop with the rider lying on top of it. We all buy insurance for the unexpected. You know, I could have probably bought my car 3 times over for the amount of insurance that I've spent on it in the last 10 years. But at the same time, I don't have another $40,000 to buy a new car if it didn't have insurance. Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, it's so much, at least it is at my house, it's so much easier to find $300 a month than it is to find another $40,000. So, like I said, insurance is for the unexpected. None of us expects to crash our bike or turn our back on it for 30 seconds and have someone run up and cut the cable and run away with it.
Right.
So Nicole's got a hand up. What's up?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. One going back to your seasonal coverage that you mentioned for the different zones. Does that mean if I'm on the East Coast, mid-Atlantic, so if I decide I want to go out and ride my bike on a really nice January morning and I get into a crash, that you don't cover it because that's part of your...
No, that was a slight misinterpretation, Nicole. It's a 12-month policy and the premium is based on your riding season or your expected riding season. But you know, there's plenty of people who pack their bikes up and move to another state for the winter. Their bike continues to be insured now, even though they are riding it 12 months of the year. They get a benefit of a lower premium because the majority of the year they're in the state that turns cold in November.
Okay, and another question. If you're riding along and you hit a pothole and you go down and you damage your bike, is that covered?
All types of accidental damage is covered. If you're looking at a damaged bike and that damage was caused by an accident, and an accident is the definition of an accident is an unforeseen future event. So,
okay, that's very interesting. Right now, my bikes are covered by a rider on my homeowner's insurance. And if my bikes get damaged in an event that involves only me, so I do go down and damage the bike, it's not covered. But if another rider takes me down, or a bike or a car stops in front of me, or if I'm hit, I am covered, but not in a solo accident.
Yeah,
So that's
it's Velosurance covers the damage to the bike, no matter how it happens, so long as it is accidental. It
okay.
really doesn't matter. And there's a couple of things that you need to just, first of all, it's prudent to have a standalone policy. A claim with us will not affect your homeowner's insurance, won't increase premiums. And the one thing insurance companies dislike are small claim. Well, they prefer small claims, but they actually dislike a series of small claims. That indicates to the insurance company that there's a big claim coming, and there's a tendency for insurance companies to non-renew clients who have a series of small claims. The other caution for you is to be totally transparent with your insurance company and tell them that you ride your bike in competitive events. Just like Allstate won't insure my car if I decide to take it to the racetrack and race it. A lot of homeowners insurance companies, as soon as they find out that that you use the bike in a competitive event, will tell you that they don't cover competitive events. We insure my State Farm agent's bikes. He doesn't ride competitively, but he rides in the Leukemia Cup. There's a fundraiser for leukemia and another one for hospice. He rides in both of those events, and State Farm will not cover him if he's riding in any type of organized event.
Wow.
So it's important to make your insurance company aware of everything that you use the bike for. And I know this is mildly off topic, but with the surge, with the emergence of a lot of e-bikes, homeowners insurance companies don't insure e-bikes because they're motorized. But we constantly hear from client after client, my agent told me it was covered, but then when it was stolen and they found out it was an e-bike, it wasn't covered. So anytime you ask a question of an insurance company, thank you for answering that. Can you confirm that in an email to me, please? And once you have that email confirming it, you put that with your insurance policy. And no matter what that agent said, he just if the policy says we don't cover it and he said we do cover it, he just changed the wording of the policy so it is covered. But insurance companies are not kind and benevolent. Understand that, and always cover yourself written confirmation.
Good, thank you. That's great. So going back to my question about what makes sense to insure. I mean, obviously, if you have a TT bike, a time trial bike, you should definitely insure it, right? But what about other types of bikes? I mean, tell us, again, like where the sweet spot would be in terms of your insuring.
First of all, if you're insuring a TT bike, get the quote and then call me and I will find you a discount. Every bike that can be pedaled can be insured.
Okay.
The minimum premium is $100 and the minimum deductible is $200. So obviously, if you insured a $300 bike, it would cost you $300. So at that point, you're better off spending $100 on some good locks and be your own risk manager. I don't insure my wife's bike 12 months of the year simply because she doesn't ride it 12 months of the year. So when we go on vacation, we'll take the bike with us. I insure it for a month. When we get back home and I lock it up in the garage, I'm managing my own risk. I take it back off the policy.
That's interesting. So you could actually buy insurance for a month or two?
Well, you have to keep the policy for 12 months, but you can add and remove bikes. You can take bikes on and off the policy. Think of somebody who has a road bike, a CX bike, and a mountain bike. So CX runs from October to February. Those are the months when riding on the road is not as pleasant, and depending on what state you're in, can be dangerous. And mountain biking doesn't start until April or May. So you have somebody with a road bike, a CX bike, and a mountain bike. He can take his CX bike off the policy once he's decided that's it. I'm just riding my mountain bike for the summer. And then he can take the mountain bike off the policy when he's okay, that's it. I'm riding my road bike.
That's great. That's actually really great because most people do have more than one bike. You know, most people have a couple of bikes.
And we talk to our clients who have multiple discipline bikes, and particularly with TT bikes, we ask, first of all, when is your next event? Oh, I'm not too sure. Okay, well, let's insure it for fitness until you know when your next event is, and then we'll put competitive use back onto it. Because as you know, anytime you compete, you're pushing the envelope, the bike is more at risk when you're going as hard and as fast as you can. Not so much with TT, because of the rules, but there's still corners, there's still stuff in the corners, stuff still happens coming around a corner to the finish line. Road bikes, crits, the Wednesday night crit, Thursday morning is probably our busiest day in the summer because the Wednesday night crit, just there's always elbows and knees coming in contact, and everyone's trying to get to the finish line first. So it's a battle, and once again, carbon frame, any frame doesn't react well to sliding across the road and other people falling on top of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Carbon can be repaired. There are some, if there's a non-safety issue, carbon can be repaired very well, very effectively, so that it's basically not visible. An aluminum frame, once you bend it, it's toast. You can't bend it back. A steel frame, there's a possibility, but those are it's actually cost less money to insure steel and aluminum, but neither of them are repairable.
Great. Well, Dave, why don't you share your contact information with everyone, and I'll be sending this around to different groups, and also posting on my blog.
Okay. Go to Mr. Google and Google Velosurance, VELOSURANCE. Doesn't matter what search engine you use. We will pop up in the top of that search engine page. Nicole, did you have another question? No. Enjoy the salad, Nicole.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
great.
you. No more questions.
Okay.
And also, you guys are on Instagram, so check them out on Instagram. I follow
Yep.
you guys. So,
Okay, all right, guys,
Thank
good
you.
talk.
thank
Let-
you
let us-
very, very much.
Let us know when we can help. Bye-bye.